Hello again everyone, Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about the third house in astrology. Now, the third house governs communications, siblings, short journeys, early education, neighbors, transportation, and assimilating information. Now, the sign on the cusp of the house can give characteristics to that house and qualities to the manner of communication and other things that are pertaining and relevant to the third house. Now, planets in the third house can flavor the house. The house where the ruler of the third house is in may show the sector of life where that third house energy is deposited and injected in. Now, also, transits and progressions are important too. If somebody has a vacant third house, say, and let's say that person doesn't really accentuate or put a lot of emphasis on communication, well, any transit or anything by a progression in a progressed chart where the person has at least one planet in the third, that will indicate often more activity in connection with the third house. So we'll give some examples. Let's say someone has the zodiac sign Cancer on the cusp of the third house. This person may be very sensitive in their communications, could be very nurturing, be emotional when they speak, may not always handle matters in communication rationally. Perhaps the connection with the siblings, if applicable, might be more emotional than for the average person. This could be a person that shows a nurturing quality in matters pertaining to their transportation. I knew somebody that had Cancer on the third house cusp, and he was constantly working on vehicles, a lot of times his own cars, and it seemed like he showed a lot of this, I guess you could say, the sensitivity toward them, and even more so than the average person. Let's say somebody has Taurus on the cusp of the third house. This person may be very methodical as far as assimilating information and may really learn things at a slow but steady, deliberate pace, may take their time to communicate things. Could be somebody that learns strongly through things that are demonstrated visually. Somebody, say, has Gemini on the third house cusp. I mean, forget it. This person may be somewhat loquacious, may talk about a variety of subjects, be very versatile as far as what they can learn and assimilate, and they might have a lot of communication with their siblings. Now let's take some examples with planets that are inhabiting the third house. Let's say that somebody has Uranus in their third house. Well, this could be a person that gets very quick, spontaneous, original ideas. It could indicate innovation, ingenuity in terms of some ideas, what they're thinking of. Could show that maybe communication can be somewhat sporadic and erratic, maybe with the siblings. This communication with the siblings might not always be consistent, if applicable. Somebody, let's say, has Pluto in the third house. This person might put a lot of intensity in their communications. It could show that there might be some sort of transformation and change that they have to deal with in connection with communication. Maybe some upheavals. Could show that maybe this person may like to talk about things that are connected with the occult, the supernatural, astrological things, maybe matters pertaining to death even. Saturn in the third could show serious communication. It could indicate that this person, as far as Saturn being in the third house, maybe it indicates that there might be something restricting or limitation in matters connected with their siblings, with communication. This person may speak very deliberately, very methodically. Now, let's take an example where somebody has, we'll do the ruler of the third house. Somebody has the ruler of the third house, say in the sixth house. This could indicate somebody that may talk a lot and be, as far as talking, I don't mean just talking a lot period, but may talk a lot about things pertaining to health related matters, to diet, to nutrition. In their work life they may be very talkative and loquacious, and there might be a lot of communication in their workplace. If somebody were to say have the ruler of the third house in the seventh house, this person may talk a lot as far as with the significant other, business partnerships, for example, just relationships in general, whether it's something where it's platonic or otherwise. Somebody with the ruler of the third house in the 12th house may be very vocal regarding things connected with the metaphysical, regarding things with their private life, perhaps things connected with spirituality. They may talk a lot about things connected with their secret sorrows, and anyway, and much communication may be injected into that private sector of their life, and a lot of talk might be in seclusion. But let's take, let's say in transits, transits and progressions can have an impact. Now, transits can have a quick impact if it's like a fast-moving planet, say Mercury. Now, if you have something like a more of a generational planet like Pluto transiting a house, well, that could have a very sustained, protracted impact. If somebody has, say, Pluto transiting the third house in their life at some point, this could be a person that may delve deeply into things connected with perhaps astrology, occult, supernatural subjects, matters pertaining to death. There might be a lot more intensity connected with their communications. If somebody were to say have Jupiter transiting their third, this could be someone during that period, for that 12, 13-month period where Jupiter transits the third house. On average, it would be in that house for that period of time. Of course, it would vary depending on the size of the third house, but say it's there for about a year. Person might be more buoyant, more exuberant in their communications, and it could expand. It could be a somewhat fortuitous period in connection with communications with siblings, perhaps if applicable with neighbors, and maybe even matters connected with short journeys. So that is that is basically what you look at. And as far as progressions go, progressions, if somebody has a vacant third house and then they have something that a planet that's inhabiting the third house, or the third house I should say is inhabiting a planet during that time in a progressed chart, that could very well indicate more activity in matters connected with communication during that period, that the planet is inside the third house in a progressed chart, one or more planets. If you have more than one in a progressed chart, that could really expand and open up activity in matters pertaining to communications with neighbors, with assimilating information. And since the third house also rules, it's our early education, it could bring maybe matters connected. Maybe this person may something that they really liked during their early education, that they really enjoyed learning. Maybe they go back and maybe have taken interest in it once again during that period. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for the third house in astrology. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be dissertating and talking about having Aries on the cusp of the third house in a natal chart. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because a person astrologically is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.